Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is the Cornell Town Hall for Cornell Lightweight Crew. Thanks for joining us. This is our fourth in total rowing-related digital town hall, and the numbers, everyone keeps coming out for them, so we really appreciate your attention and your attendance. Just want to give you a quick kind of Zoom 101 here. First, my name is Keith Hannon from the Athletics Office of Alumni Affairs and Development. And I'll be just kind of kicking things off and then handing it over to Coach Kerber. Some things to know, please remain muted during our program unless you are one of our called upon speakers. We'll have an opportunity to unmute as we get towards the end of the program. For questions, please use the chat box to submit questions at any time during the program, and we'll run through all of them towards the end of the show. To do that, I'm going to go over to my shared screen here. You should see my little, do you see my toolbar, Coach? Coach Kerber, do you see the?
Stand by. Your toolbar.
This, do you see my mouse touching all these different buttons? Or does that not show up for anybody?
Does not show up for me.
Maybe it only sees me. Anyway, so if you run your mouse at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a toolbar that shows up for muting yourself and participants, and there's a chat function. So you can use that chat function to send a message to the entire group, or you can message just individuals that are attending. If you want to have a private conversation, reconnect with people, say things you wouldn't say to a large audience, whatever you do there, we don't need to know about it, but good chance to say hello, and you can also use that to search who is attending. I also recommend if you go to the top right corner of your viewing screen, you'll see you can switch to gallery mode if you're not in it already, and that will bring a lot more screens up so that you can see more people attending than just who is speaking at the time. Or you can go back to speaker view and just see the person who's talking at the time, however you want to do it. A lot of people like to see all the different faces joining us tonight. Also, you are being recorded right now. So if you don't want to be seen in the recording, maybe turn your camera off, but just want to give everyone a heads up on that. And we like to get the show going by encouraging everyone to use the chat to say who you are, your class year, and where you're joining us from. So if you want to go ahead and do that, get some buzz going in the chat box, and then we'll begin our program. So without further ado, here is the Coach Chris Kerber. Take it away, Coach.
Thanks, Keith. Thanks very much for all the support throughout this. This is a great honor to be able to do a town hall in front of a live audience of friends and alumni. Thank you for letting us into your home this evening. This is what I love about webinars. This is my fourth one, including our town hall, which was all 3 teams. Zoom calls, these live podcasts. Whatever the story, it's all about really connecting people together. And this is like the pinnacle of my community right now. So it's so important during these times. And I do feel like as we kind of leave this hour 20, whatever it is, the student leadership writes the next chapter in history. So it's kind of dedicated to those guys on the team who are going to write the next chapter. So we brought in the powerhouses tonight. We brought in some great speakers. I also want to thank Cornell for creating these exclusive sessions, for the creative thinking around making these, and then continued support of myself, my staff, my team, future recruits. I want to thank Todd Kennett and Anita Brenner. I hope she's on tonight, who took a risk of hiring me in the summer of 2008 to take on the lights. It's been a heck of a road, and I've definitely transformed a lot through the experience. So I wanted to thank them, and then all of our super awesome support staff up on the Hill. That's everybody in the training room, compliance, strength and conditioning. They don't get enough thank yous. They don't get enough light shined on them. They're amazing people. They really help us do support our mission in a lot of ways. Tonight's hour is a bit of a walkthrough, and it's a rather deep dive into some foundational inputs into the Cornell Lightweight League topping cruise. Okay, it's not an obvious one. We're gonna track 3 captains, not of the winning cruise, but look at the years before when athletes, coaches, competitive squads were leaders and followers, and how these teams were coalescing well before that Varsity 8 summited, either at the sprints or the IRA, or both, which is kind of nice. So looking at like what was happening 2 years, Colin Farrell was the captain for 2 years, almost 3 years. What was happening before that? So I'm going to take you down that road. Actually, they're going to take you down that road. It goes without saying, you know, we're only looking at 3 decades, and I had a great chat with Chris Mabley, 65, and yesterday, and you know, there's 7 decades of this where Cornell was powerhousing, and started in the 40s with those championship 40s, and then 50s and 60s. 60s is going to be a whole hour or 3. I have some pictures of banners, which are just emblazon the boathouse. They hang and reflect the collective effort of so many squads that have gone before us. I pivoted into these guys because I've had conversations with Taylor, Colin, and Dennis just about what it was like during those years. And it's really of interest to me. Leadership, you probably see it emblazoned all over my email reports. I run a little leadership institute here on the Hill that affects a lot of athletes, makes them good teammates. I take a lot of pride in that. It's kind of like my graduate school. But tonight we're going to have these guests. It's Captain Dennis Woodside, class of 1991, Colin Farrell, 2005, Taylor Black. These were 2013. These are all the captains the year before the big seasons or the big runs. Dennis, class of 91. So we're shouting out to the 92 guys. Colin Farrell was the captain 0405. Those 06, 7, 8 run was, you know, the path was set. And then Taylor Black in 13 went through that before we hit gold on 14 and 15. We're also going to be joined by our current captains, Alex Coast and Cam Bertosa. A lot of these guys didn't reap the benefits of winning, but in my mind, they were integral to the success that followed. Okay. And then just quickly, I think the questions we're going to be asking, or what I asked our guests was, you know, the big question is how we got there, how we summited. And I think the important message is it took years to build the right culture, to get the right talent in the door, maybe get rid of some of the people out the door. There was definitely challenges, and you're going to hear some great stories. Success doesn't happen overnight. We're going to talk about how they took the team from A to B, what calculated risks they took, maybe some of the fortunate, lucky things that happened. You know, and I think some of it does happen with luck, getting the right person in the door, getting the right talent, maybe a season that maybe the league is struggling, or some of the powerhouses are struggling. You got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. Or maybe it was, you know, not an easy conversation with your classmates. Like, this is what we're going to go through. So anyway, and then also those turning points, those key events, those emotional catalysts that set the stage for the next set of development, the next advancement. So sit back, enjoy. Hope you have a cold drink. Listening to these amazing people this week was incredible. I think we created a tighter family. I definitely got exposed to a number of bounces of emails out there. I met a new friend today. That was Dennis Woodside's coxswain in 1991. I think she was the first female coxswain in the lightweight ranks. We're gonna figure that out in the coming weeks. But I'll tell you, Sunday for me, I was walking my dog in the neighborhood, and it wasn't an easy day. It was IRA week, and I'm still kind of banged up by a lot of things, not because of what could have happened. I'm banged up because of my seniors. I'm still sad. It was tough pill to swallow. As Coach Mike Schaefer, the hockey coach, said last night in the senior banquet, he says, "Congratulations, class of 2020. You got screwed." And it's true. And everybody's feeling it. It's a gut punch. So without further ado, tonight's dedication is to that class. And I would really like to invite Dennis up to take the mic and tell some awesome stories of the late 80s and the early 90s. Take it away, Dennis.
Thanks, Chris. I also agree. I've been looking forward to this all week. All of us, I think, are stuck in if you're working business Zoom meetings all week, and it's great to kind of reconnect and think back on some times when you really did achieve something over a period of time. When you really look back on it, at the time you don't quite realize it. But Chris asked me to speak a little bit about what life was like in the lightweight ranks back in 89, 90, 91. That's when I was in the program. And I rode freshman year, I rode heavyweight, lost 20 pounds. And at the end of my freshman year, the coach said, "Hey, you're lightweight." So I went to the lightweight program, and it was really interesting. At the time, the women had just won the national champs, or they were on their way to winning the national champs. And so they were really loose and positive and friends with one another. And the lightweights hadn't won in a while. And I would say that the atmosphere in the varsity program was tough. People were frustrated. It was a little bit of division. So you had that going on. And then you had this freshman class that came in, new freshman coach, Chris Bassler, maybe he's on the call, but he came in and he just convinced these guys that they could not lose. They were a completely different breed. They would go out, they'd race against the varsity boats, and they'd take them every now and then. But what made all of us in the varsity stand up and take notice happened at Yale my sophomore year, when this freshman class, they had won a couple races. They're racing against Yale, and the 1F is at about the 1,200 meter mark. And they had a guy named John Uphoff, who was this like beast of a lightweight, but he had this habit of jumping a slide all the time. So at the 1,200 mark, John Uphoff jumps his slide, and he can't get it back on. And the boat's continuing to row. Yale's now taking ground against Cornell. And Saul Goldstein, who was the coxswain of the 1F, says, "Uphoff, out of the boat." And John Uphoff calmly unscrewed his oar rigger, tossed his oar one way, and bailed out of the boat the other way. True story. With 7 guys, that boat comes back and walks through Yale and wins. Race is over. None of us can believe that actually happened. They pick up a launch or something. If you look in the record books, they lost that race because officially that was a dangerous maneuver. But we knew that crew was not going to lose much, and they went on that year to win silver at sprints. So the next year, when that crew came into the varsity boathouse, everybody's standards went up. It was like, you did not want to let, I was a junior at the time, you didn't want to let those guys down. And it wasn't just 8, they had like 16 guys who were all of that level of commitment. So all the attitude stuff that was in the boathouse the year before, it started dissipating, and the seniors started stepping up and leading. And we weren't a great crew, but we were a decent crew that year. We got to sprints, and we were at the 1,000 meter mark, we were up by half a length on the entire field. And I don't think Cornell lightweights had been up by half a length on the entire field at sprints for a long time. And I remember from that point, something happened, the boat wobbled, you know how this goes, and we faded to fifth. But after the race, our captain, Jim Love, you know, in the boat meeting, sits down and he says, hey guys, you know, I got nervous. I looked out of the boat. I think I wrecked the set. That's on me. And I remember saying, whoa, no, that's not what happened, man. But he owned it for us and nobody else had to say anything. He just owned it. And I think that set the tone for the next year, which is when we started seeing some results. So we get to the boathouse the next year, and Saul Goldstein, who was the 1V coxswain, he took a year abroad. So we didn't have very experienced coxswains. And one day, Nadine Gelberg, who was a women's cox, showed up, and our coach John Ferris said she's gonna cox a boat today. And we literally were out of coxswains. And she got in, and the next day she was coxing again, and she just stuck. She was a good coxswain. And as far as I know, a woman had not coxed a lightweight boat, at least not in my generation. But she had a winning attitude. She'd come from a winning program, the women's program. And literally a month later, she's the coxswain for the 8 at Head of the Charles. And, you know, that's a coxswain's course. She totally nailed the course. I don't think that boat rode an extra stroke to get around that course. So she won the 1V seat for the year. And, you know, in retrospect, it probably took some courage for her to join that team, and she was absolutely amazing. So that led to the first winning season in years in the spring. We had wins at Penn, Dartmouth. I think we lost to Yale and Princeton, but we entered sprints. We were pretty good. We had a solid race the whole way down. We had, in the boat, we had 2 seniors, myself and Wes Sand. And if you look at that picture that Chris sent around, the only 2 guys who are looking out of the boat are me and Wes Sand, the seniors. Everybody else in that boat's a junior from that original Chris Bassler class or a sophomore. And we had a solid race. So we were in contention the whole way down. We wound up in 3rd. We went to IRAs, also were 3rd there. So yeah, there you go. The only 2 guys looking out of the boat are the seniors. So that year, Wes and I graduated, and Nadine, we all graduated. We totally knew that crew could win the next year. And I remember driving up, I lived in Philly, drove up to watch sprints in '92. And it was just an honor to see them win. And I think they went undefeated that season. It was awesome. But that was a journey. We went from I think a team of you know, a little bit of division and not a lot of results to a team that actually delivered and set the stage for the guys that came after us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Dennis. Great storytelling, and some really great understanding of how you and maybe a small senior class closed the gap, and how it was how you did that. So thank you very much. Keith, you can go forward.
And hey, if any of the classes there from 90 to 93 are on, good to see you guys.
Sorry. Thanks again, Dennis. And thanks for that great storytelling. I'm sure that feat in Derby is definitely talked about and will be talked about more in the ranks. Thank you for revitalizing that story and that, I don't know, feat of commitment. I mean, that was the measurement of the commitment that individual was ready to do, a selfless maneuver like that. Segueing over to our next guest, this is the great Colin Farrell, captain 0405, Hall of Fame. I want to say 15, is that correct?
Yes.
He is the 2nd lightweight Hall of Famer. The first one was Chris Mabley, which was a couple years ago. And think of how you get into the Hall of Fame. You do it with amazing talent, leadership. Also, the interesting thing for how many people are here tonight, 109 people. Colin is a competitor of mine. You can see he's wearing the Penn, the Quaker colors, the red and the blue, the West Philadelphia crew. Big hats off to his win last year at the sprints Many others wins at sprints with Yale and things like that. An well-emerging crew. Definitely had to think twice about bringing him on tonight, as far as like opening up the playbook and wearing my heart on the sleeve. But Colin is from South Jersey, like I am. We grew up 20 years apart, but I think we drank the same water, and we cut our teeth on the same water, the Schuylkill. So there he is on the winning for the first time in 40 years, 76, winning the Eastern Sprints last year. And there he is, his final race. Oh boy, it's raining. His final race, as a senior for Cornell. So again, hats off to Colin. Thanks for making some time. You have a great story to tell. So
thanks, Chris. Yeah, just appreciate the opportunity. Can you hear me all right?
Keith, move forward one.
All right. Yeah, and just thanks to Todd and Anita as well. Appreciate you guys having me on. It is a privilege to row for Cornell, and anytime I get asked to come back is just awesome. I'm happy to share. One of the things we talked about as sort of like a starting point was buy-in. And I think for me in my class, that was a real strength of ours. I really wanted to go to Cornell, and I really want to row for Todd. And that was a real starting point for me. During recruiting, I remember Todd actually got me into Andy Noel's office, and I got about a 1-minute meeting. But it was really simple. It was, we're not that good of a team right now, and we want to get a lot better, and we think you can help. And for me, that was sort of like all I needed to hear, and something that had me really excited. So I really feel like I entered my 4 years with this idea that, we got to make the team better, and we're trying to get sort of back to the top. And I think that was really, I have expectations on there. To me, that was really like the first step of it all, was trying to get people to start to think that we could be a top crew, and I felt like everybody wants to win. Everybody sort of says that would be nice, but it's different to really believe that you can do it, and to put the kind of the work behind it. And so my freshman year, we ended up having just a good season. I wouldn't call it a great one, but we were very competitive. This was back in the days of freshman rowing. And every race that year we were really in it, whether we won or not. And we ended up with a bronze at sprints, in a race where first place was a length ahead of sixth. And so everybody else was in the middle. And that was kind of like our taste of what the league was all about and how competitive it was going to be. And I think that was a really nice stepping stone for me and my class, just understanding that, hey, we can compete in this league, and like now we can start to make these steps towards the varsity and towards kind of the mission here. And I trained really hard that summer and came in pretty ready to go, and pulled like the best 5K on the team right away that fall. But my sophomore year was really a disaster. When I was getting recruited, Todd was even looking ahead to that point. He was like, hey, I'm going to have this good senior class when you're a sophomore, but we're like going to need a stroke man, and you're going to be able to fill that role for us and be in that seat. And so I really went in with this idea that, okay, I can sort of fill this role, and I got to be in shape and ready to go for this. And the team just never gelled. And I have that sort of piece about how all the classes fit together. And that year, the classes really didn't fit together. And especially the seniors in my class, the sophomores, we just never really saw it the same way. I think our class was really excited to make a big impact and help kind of like take over this thing and take the team to a new level. And I think the seniors sort of felt like, hey, this is our year. And nothing against you, but you're like getting in the way of that a little bit. You're taking a seat from another senior, and sort of messing up our plan for how it was supposed to be. And there was just a lot of friction that year is what I would describe, and a lot of unnecessary sort of drama, I think, about what was going on. I I was still stroking the varsity though. And we lost to Harvard by like a length. They got out and just sat on us. And then the next week against Princeton, we just got destroyed. Like we were never in the race. Attention, go, see you later. And after that race, I remember going to Todd and just saying like, you know, this isn't working. And you got to take me out of the boat. And he wouldn't do it. But we ended up kind of shuffling the lineup around and moving things. And we were a little closer against Columbia. We led for like 1,500, but then got walked through. And the same thing happened again against Dartmouth. We were ahead, and they came through us. I didn't win a single race that year. And it all kind of came to a head right before sprints, because we still just couldn't get on track as a squad, I would say. And basically like 3 days before the sprints, I got C raced and lost the C race by more than anyone's ever lost a C race in their life. I just got crushed. And you can read into that how you like. But, you know, I ended up in the JV. And the frustration of that for me was we missed a bronze medal by like a 10th. We were right there. And that was on like 3 days of practice. So I was like, man, if we could have just rode that JV boat a little longer, might have been able to do something. But, you know, I think of that year as a bit of a low point, but also something that became really important for our class and for our team at that time. Because I think our class really came out of that very unified and feeling like we're never going to do that again. And that's not the way we want the team to be. And that's like not what we want to be about. We want to be about winning and going fast and having fun, and really rewarding the guys that are working the hardest and making the boat go. And that to me really like set the tone for what became kind of the run up to, you know, really the next 3 years, for me, the next 2 years, but I think even to the time beyond that, we started to kind of like get a sense of what we wanted the culture to be. My junior year was just way more fun. You know, that's how I would describe it. It was really enjoyable. We were pretty young because the class ahead of me, the class of 04, was only 3 guys. So it was a really small class. And so the juniors were kind of like the meat of the team. But we were getting a lot better, you know, and you could just tell that because there was good energy all the time. The training was really effective, and the buy-in was still there from our group with Todd and everything. And I think we really started kind of just getting better traction. And to me, you said about sort of calculated risks, Chris. I think the thing that sort of started to emerge for us at that time was guys started to understand that they could really take ownership of the process, and that if they wanted to go full throttle on it, it was really there for them. And you didn't just kind of have to like show up and do the work. You could kind of take it where you wanted to go. So a personal example that I would give is we were rowing early in the season and we're in mixed boats, and we just can't get them separated. You know, every day it seemed like they were just trading pieces. And I can't tell you how many times we went out and I thought, oh, okay, this is the lineup now. And then it wouldn't happen. I remember sitting behind Dan Baker, who in the picture there, he's the 5-man. But we were out in like a mixed boat, and I was in, I think, 5 and he was in 6. I said, Dan, we're not going to lose a piece today. And right away on the first piece, we get beat. And, you know, sort of after that, I went into Todd's office and said, like, Todd, what are we doing here? When are you going to put me in stroke? And, you know, he did that. And I think he appreciated the assertiveness. And I think I was starting to see the ways in which I could kind of take the reins as long as we were working well with the coach and working well as a group. Like that was really the critical piece. So I think guys started to really take a hold of it a lot more. And that started showing in just the work that was happening, the amount of work that was happening, kind of how much guys were training, and what guys were kind of trying to achieve on the team. And that spring, you know, I think we really had a breakout year. We knew we were fast, but we didn't really know how fast. And I think our first really big win was against Princeton. Harvard beat us again, same race as the year before. They got out a length and just sat on us. But at Princeton, we went to Princeton that year, and we were pretty excited about that race. But, you know, we just didn't know. We didn't know how fast we really were. And I remember at the end of the warm-up, we did sort of a little shot in the direction of Princeton's course. You know, you do something in the direction of course before you kind of get ready to go. And we used to like to do a 7 and 7 and 7. So it's sort of like base for 7 strokes, build. So you're almost at full speed at the end. And we get done that, and Ellie, our Cox, is like, you guys just went 112. And I was like, hey, bring it on. And Ellie kind of got on the mic and said, yeah, Colin says bring it on. You know, and I think that group was starting to kind of develop confidence that we didn't really know how fast we were, but like we knew that we were making ourselves hard to beat. And we went on to beat those guys, which was huge. A lot of the results, Dennis, that we were producing were running into your era. So a lot of things that we were doing were the first time since 92, a lot of times. And the next weekend we beat Columbia and MIT, and then went to Yale and beat them in a screaming tailwind, went 529 there, and ended up finishing off with Dartmouth. So we went to the sprints, I think, with like a 9-1 record and ranked, I want to say, 3rd. Navy was undefeated and ahead of us, and then Harvard had beaten us. And that race to me that year at the sprints was like personally probably one of the most disappointing ones in my career. We just were never in it. And we ended up 5th. And, you know, you talked to Chris a little bit about just things don't happen overnight. And I think that was really that moment for us, that it was like, we got this thing going. You know, all the stuff we've been talking about, the stuff that I like was recruited to come here and do, it's happening. And then it wasn't, you know, and we kind of really weren't over that hump yet to say that we were one of the best teams. And I think for me personally, that just became a big motivator that like we weren't done the job yet. And I really evaluated that season as the issue being like our best guys aren't the best guys in the league. And I felt like we didn't really have like true top end speed. And that was me, you know, and that meant that I kind of needed to do a little bit of a better job myself and taking ownership of the training. And that really started that summer for me. And just trying to elevate the squad to sort of a new height. And you know, what I really remember about my senior year, I think the biggest difference that year was really confidence. And that's the last piece I have on there is like, we went from, okay, maybe we could be good. Well, even my freshman year, we have no idea, but to like, we think we can be good, but we're not sure how fast we were. To my senior year, we were like, we're going to be really fast. And we knew that the whole year, and we knew we had the players, and we knew we had the pieces in place. And that really like changed, I would say, just the tone of the training and how we were able to kind of manage the younger guys as well. So the varsity that year, if you're looking at the picture, the Bow 4, those are all sophomores. And what is the class of 07. And so they have to be a big part of this story because they're the ones that actually went and did the winning. And so, you know, those guys really came in, I think, to a group that felt like we know what we're trying to do, you know, we know where we're trying to get to, and we have a lot of confidence around the process and the steps we're trying to make this year. And I think that the piece for me as a leader that was really key is these guys were a little like us 2 years earlier. You know, they were this young class that was really big and deep. The class in between us of 06 was pretty small. And so here's these young sophomores again, kind of trying to make a big impact and take over the team. And that had been us, you know, and we had seen how the seniors had sort of not done it right before. And I think that became huge because we loved these guys, and, you know, we were just all about trying to make the fastest lineups possible and winning races. And so if you could help us do that, you know, like you were on the squad. But it did mean that, you know, for me personally, I think having to have conversations with teammates that, you know, hey, you're not really up to standard. And the year before, when we'd gotten 5th at sprints, 8 of the 9 of that boat came back, you know, and sort of the message for some people, unfortunately, was like, hey, if we just put that boat back together and we're all the same, we're not going to do any better. And I think, you know, sometimes those are hard conversations for leaders to have, but I think we all had a lot of trust in each other. And I think that guys understood what the team was about and where I was coming from. And that made it a lot easier. And so, yeah, I think, you know, that spring really, we were really on a mission for sprints and IRAs as well. That was the other piece that sort of changed. I think my junior year when we beat Princeton, it was a really big deal. Todd took about 1,000 pictures on the dock when we won. My senior year when we beat them, it was like, okay, we got to keep getting ready for the sprints. And we're not really like done the year yet. And that was that kind of confidence piece that allowed us to really look ahead to what was going on. Sprints that year, I should have sent you a picture of this, Chris. I cringe every time I look at it, but we were, I'm on the video here. We were about that far away from silver and maybe like that far away from gold. We set the course record in 3rd place. It was just a blazing fast race and super tight and, you know, right down to the wire. We were the crew that was really coming through everybody, but essentially ran out of room. You know, and at the IRA, we got 2nd. Yale beat us. That race, we really, there was a picture of that in the beginning. We really feel like we won that race. And, you know, we came off knowing that was like our best effort and we had just gotten beat. And I think that was a really satisfying feeling. And the thing I'd maybe end on is just that it's funny when people say like, you know, you're like part of a class that didn't do the winning. And I would say it didn't really feel like that. You know, it really felt like when I graduated, like we had done it and we had really gotten the team where we wanted to be. And of course I would have liked to win the IRA and the sprints, but I think we had like kind of achieved the mission and we felt like we were a real force. And having gone through that and knowing where the squad was when I showed up to what it was when I left, it was so dramatic that was so satisfying. And obviously when they went on a tear the next couple of years, that was just a blast to watch. And those guys in the bow, they were a huge part of that. And, you know, it was just, you got to see your friends succeed and dominate and work off of a lot of stuff that you helped them put in place. And that was really a privilege to get to see. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Colin, thanks so much. Always just amazingly articulate, even when we're exchanging awards. Well said, well written on Row 2K. Love the articles. Get a little bit more understanding of you and your ability to lead, and then just getting those young guys, those followers, to align with the vision that you and Todd were putting together. It's just great storytelling. Really, really, really nice. Thank you for their time tonight. It wouldn't have been the same without you.
Oh, happy to do it.
I'm gonna pass it over to Taylor Black. I think one of the things Colin talked about was having those hard conversations with your classmates, with your peers, or maybe somebody that's older than you. Hey, you know what? This ain't working, whatever it is. Anyway, I heard on another webinar, one of these types of things, like leadership is a contact sport. Okay, you don't have to be physical, except if you're, you know, of that ilk, but you got to be able to engage. You got to have some spine. And I'd say nowhere else it shows with Taylor, his senior class, with Matt Rung, who came on in the fall of 2012, which was Taylor's senior year. We took on what I would say, and I was the head coach, we took on a pretty rigorous agenda. And I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, one of my favorites. So glad we picked each other, he picked us, but I just want to pass it over to Taylor.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate that. And thank you guys for having me here. I think it's been really interesting for me to look back at my time at Cornell through a different lens, almost kind of looking back with some guided questions from Chris and from Matt Rung about, what were some of the changes we wanted to take on my senior year. I think it really starts kind of looking at my first 3 years at Cornell, especially my junior year. So that was the spring of 2012. Looking at the team then, 06, 07, 08 was always our standard. We got recruited on that level of we're the best team around. That's the level we wanted to be at, and that's where we wanted to continue to compete at. I think when Chris took over, there was a little animosity between, some of those classes that might have been recruited by Todd, and there wasn't the buy-in and I would say camaraderie and partnership that needs to exist between athletes and coaches. I think we were a talented group our junior year. I think everyone on the team, or almost everyone, had at least one sprints medal. The seniors won gold as freshmen. Our class won gold as freshmen. The class below won bronze. So, we didn't lack in talent. We were lacking in top end speed. And I think we got distracted from, our sense of accountability of the process. I think, everyone started worrying about what was happening outside of their compartment, what the other boat was doing, what the 2 guy was doing instead of the 4 seat. Everyone wanted to play coach and athlete. I think for us, I was lucky where I had a really big senior class around me. I had, there were 10 of us all together, and all those guys were great, in helping shape this year. I think for us as a class, we came in with a mentality that we want to make rowing fun again. We want to look forward to going to the boathouse, to going to Teagle, to going to those 7 a.m. lifts in Bartels, and just having a really positive attitude and creating a really positive relationship with Chris. I think when we met with Chris as a class before the start of the year, we outlined that, and he outlined changes he wanted to make. And I think it's important to see that fall, the team really became Chris's team. All of a sudden he hired Matt Rung, he had his assistant coach in, he had his recruiting classes in, everyone who was in the program now, Chris had recruited. He had brought them to Cornell for a reason. And, I think as we went through that fall, it was one of constant change. We were changing blades. We were trying different boats. We were changing how we rode. Matt Rung brought in the UW style and we were implementing it throughout the program. So we were having a very productive fall. And I think most importantly was, there was a sense of accountability on performance on the erg and on the water. And one kind of particular memory that really stuck out to me was the week between the Charles and the Chase in the fall. The varsity had a mediocre performance at the Charles. I think we were 6th. We went back, we did some more selection, changed the lineup, but the biggest change became the JV and the 3V. We were doing our last piece, I think it was Thursday night or Friday. The top 2 boats were going to go down to Princeton Saturday morning, practice down there. The 3V and the freshmen were going to come down Sunday morning. That's a 4 a.m. bus from Ithaca for at least 2 races during the day. Not the best, not setting you up for success really. But I think during that last piece, the 3V, which I think had a double bucket in it, ended up beating the 2V. And this is a Thursday or Friday night. Bags are pretty much packed, ready to go the next day. We get to the dock, we put the boats on the trailer, and Chris goes, all right, 3V, pack your bags. You're now the 2V. 2V, you're on the bus Sunday morning. So there were guys from the varsity at the Charles who all of a sudden were catching a bus Sunday morning at 4 a.m. And I think that's a sense of accountability to the process, to the results, to a kind of an unbiased approach, kind of started to spiral a little bit and kind of hold us a little bit more accountable as athletes to the process and, making sure that every day we approached it with a sense of urgency. I think, we as a senior class wanted to create all these changes. We wanted to have, a legacy as a class, but I think the biggest catalyst for our change, for our cultural change, came in December or in January, and it wasn't planned. We were on our training trip in Florida, and the one rule there is no drinking. And unfortunately, we had 6 athletes that had to be sent home for breaking that rule. And I think for me as a captain, that was the hardest decision I ever had to make was, how do we approach this? What do we do? What's the situation? And, I think I approached it the way I did, kind of leading the charge and sending these guys home because of a conversation I had with Matt Rung in December. Matt and I were talking after, a December party where a couple freshmen got in trouble. And Matt just said to me, look, Taylor, like, you've outlined all the things you and your class want to do, but you were elected captain not to make the popular decisions, but to make the really hard ones. And there are going to be times where you have to make the hard decision, what's best for the program, even if it's not what you want to do. And that Florida decision was definitely one of those instances for me where I struggled with it, and I still struggle with it. I know, some of those guys were my best friends. Some of them, still are. Others, relationships changed, and it was tough. But that process in Florida, that sense of, we need to do something different. We need to have we're meeting all these changes. We're kind of wanting them. We have to meet Kerber halfway. We have to back him up, and we need to change how we interact. And I think coming out of that incident, we started to create a culture of accountability. And it carried throughout the winter where, we started being super disciplined on timing for practice. Cell phone time said 5 o'clock, we're going. If you show up at 5:01, you're going home that day. Just stuff like that, little things that, brought the discipline back into the group. And I think bringing that discipline back started to create more trust between the athletes and also between the athletes and the staff. I think we were earning each other's trust more and more as the system or as the winter went on. I would love to say it was all smooth sailing that winter, but I would kind of classify it as very tumultuous. We were fighting battles, and they weren't popular decisions, but it just kind of, we were putting our heads down as a group of leaders and, trying to influence a program, trying to steer it in the direction we thought it needed to go. And one of those instances was the dry policy where, my freshman year, we were completely dry. February 14th hit, Matt Rung, who was the captain that year, sent out an email and said, plain and simple, after this date, you are no longer supposed to drink until X date. And every year, it got a little looser, a little looser, a little looser. And then our year, we went right back to what it was freshman year. Starting this date, no more. And, I don't think in the end, that's probably not going to win us an IRA. That's not going to, essentially make the boat faster, but it just brings the group a little together. It brings the group a little more close-knit. It lets everyone kind of focus on what's important for those 3 months, really, which is trying to make the boat go as fast as possible. I think throughout that winter, we lost a couple athletes. A couple athletes said, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't the team I want to be a part of. And, they were good athletes. They were good guys. But I think, in the end, it really didn't hurt us in the long run. I actually think it helped the program in the long run, just because it let more voices of a positive nature kind of come out. It let leaders step up in different ways to guide the program towards the direction that, ultimately we as a senior class, me as a captain, I think the coaches kind of wanted it to go. I didn't know throughout that whole time if we were having a positive impact. And it's one I lost sleep over it. I questioned it a lot going into, really into spring break. But I think one moment that really stuck out to me is we're making some progress. And it's a moment that, it really touched me, and it continues to do, was my mom was diagnosed with cancer January of that year. So January of 13. And she had gone through a pretty serious round of chemo and had lost all of her hair. And I was going down to see her for the first time in early March. And I was going to shave my head in solidarity with her. A couple guys at Mystery knew that was happening, and they, along with Rung, organized the whole group to do it. And so I showed up to practice on Monday, walked into the boat bay, and everyone's standing there with a shaved head. And I was floored. I was like, wow, talk about an action that shows we are a cohesive unit. We're one team. We're working towards one thing. That was one that that really just made my jaw drop and brought a tear to my eye then. And when I think back on it, I kind of in the prep call was getting emotional thinking about it. You know, going throughout the spring, I think we showed promise, especially in the lower boats and even in flashes to the varsity. You know, Harvard was the top dog that year, and they, you know, clearly were, you know, ranked number one. I think they went undefeated throughout the whole year. The first race of the season down in Philadelphia, we were the closest anyone's been to them in 2 years. So we were happy with that. You know, Princeton came to Ithaca the next weekend. Lower boats all won. You know, varsity needed to win to complete the sweep. We're sitting about 750 in and a full length down. And, you know, the tension starts to come in, that tension a little bit. And, you know, our coxswain, Molly Bickle, just calls, row your race, junkyard dogs, go after it. And similar to what Colin was saying, that confidence just started to come in. And, you know, going through the turn, I got Andrew Hooker in the boat yelling, yeah, red, under the bridge. And we just started taking off. We're marching through them in the third 500, won by open water to complete the sweep of Princeton. You know, 2 weeks later, the team ended up sweeping Dartmouth in Ithaca again. And then the sprints performance, I think, was a good team performance where the lower boats, you know, all won 2 golds, 2 silvers. You know, we had set ourselves up in a position to do what we wanted to do. We wanted to win the Joe Cup. That was the goal all year. And the varsity needed to medal to be able to do it. And we're in the final, and we came out flat, just flat from the flag dropping. And we ended up 6th, never in the race, never in the medals. And going back to you know, the Princeton Chase story, you know, you talk about a sense of accountability to on-water results. You know, that started one of the hardest training camps of my life, where between sprints and IRAs, which were in California that year, so it was a short little window, every guy in the varsity 8 got switched. You know, we had 16 guys stick around for the IRA camp. You know, 8 went in the 8, 4 went in the 4 guys went home. And it was you know, constant pieces, constant battles across the gunnel. And it was a challenging camp. And I think for Kerber, it was really hard, where he had to make tough decisions that, you know, I think to this day, he probably still battles with them. And I know that changed his relationship with a couple of guys. But, you know, going to the IRA that year, a moment that shows we made a lot of progress for me was the final. You know, in the 8, you know, in the final, we put ourselves in a position to be in the race. You know, something we weren't able to do at sprints, where, you know, at the 1,000, we were running 2nd to Harvard. At the 1,500, we were at 3rd, in a solid 3rd position, but we ran out of gas. You know, we didn't have the capacity to back it up in the last 500. We didn't have that championship speed to escalate the race when it really mattered and when it really counted. You know, I think looking at that race, it showed me that the talent was in the program. You know, and I hoped that it would continue to grow in the coming years. And I think the next year, sitting on the bank in Worcester and on the beach in Mercer and watching that crew, the 2014 crew, lead wire to wire was, you know, I would say I was very proud of them, you know, and give them a lot of credit for, I think, keeping the faith and kind of furthering the process along. I know those guys definitely had a huge part of doing that. And I think they had a huge part of it our year, and were able to continue to build upon it, which was very encouraging to see.
Thanks, Taylor. Again, some really riveting stories. Again, taking leadership as a contact sport, not seriously, but like, if you want to make change, you got to be accountable to it, and you got to make strong decisions. Really great stuff. Love hearing that. Really enjoy hearing the stories, and thank you, Taylor, for your time tonight. I'm going to pivot quickly to our current captains. Keith, if you move forward. These guys are just going to give a little snippet about the current team, and then we'll break it down right afterwards. I'll say a few words, and we'll open up to questions. We are getting right to the hour since we started at 7:06. You know, we're moving along good. Hopefully you guys can stay on. Love to hear some questions from the group. But let's have Alex Coast and Cam Pertosa take it over. These are the current leaders of the squad, the ones that his peers elected, or they elected these guys to be captains to lead them through that. So take it away, Alex and Cam.
Yeah, so I'll start. I think Coast and I want to start by just thanking the previous captains from speaking. It's pretty special to be able to hear stories, and I think without a doubt the foundation that you guys have built has really contributed to our recent success. And so I think over the past 3 years I've been here, one of the biggest developments in culture that I've seen, if you advance to the next slide, is that showing up is not just enough to be successful. And I think we really saw this in 2018. I think we kind of fell into a lull of complacency. And unfortunately, we faltered that year. But I think you can ask a lot of people on the team that were present for then that we probably learned the most from that year than we did any other year. And I think we came back with a pretty big force in 2019. Like day one, it was about we had standards set for ourselves coming in. Like we had the notion that, you know, we just had to be better on every piece. I remember preparation in the fall leading up to Head of the Charles. We were doing some Predator pieces, and it was like a set of 3 pieces or something. And it was after the first or second piece, and like I think a lot of the guys in the boat thought it was a good piece. You know, we threw down a good time in a time trial style. And I remember Soren Kozik, who was sitting behind me, was like, "No, we have to be better." Like it was just about holding each other accountable throughout the year. And I think you know, I think that really set the tone of the year. And I think top to bottom, we had a pretty good performance, and I think that translated into the fall of this year, where we even turned it up a little bit higher. And I think it was pretty special to see, because I think that I think it turned from just, you know, a portion of the team feeling that way to buy-in from top to bottom. And like we got a great freshman class this year and immediately contributed to team culture. And I think as a whole, like it just expanded the depth of the team. And you know, in these slider room pieces that we do, where we line up ranked on how we performed, from day to day it would change, and from piece to piece it would change. And I think that was a result of just guys held each other to a higher standard, and you know, always wanted to be better. And yeah, so I think you know, had we been able to raise that this year, it would be pretty special. And I think it's going to continue to translate in the next years. I think Coast has a couple more points.
I'll take over from here. If you could go to the next slide.
Keith went to refill his beverage. Keith. All right, Alex, you're going to have to do it virtually. The next slide.
Okay.
He'll be along in a second here. Here he comes. Here he comes.
Exactly. Tell him that'd be great.
Over time here. I love it. All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so 2 other themes that I think I've kind of reflected upon over the last 4 years at Cornell are emerging leadership, and then the sense of community that the team has. So like Kerber said, Cam and I took on being captains this year, but I think a huge part of what makes C-150 different is the fact that on the squad, there's leadership from everyone, and it's not just from the captains or not just from the seniors. the organizational structure isn't just based on what boat you're in, your 2K, or how old you are, but everyone gets a seat at the table and finds a way to contribute. So this can look like sophomores bringing the freshmen in, younger guys sharing their ideas to Cam and I, or just going straight to the coaches, or guys kind of leading and getting their class into Teagle. And I think a huge part of this has been due to the fact that freshmen come in now and contribute day one. You know, you have guys in the 1V and in the 2V from the start. And then also kind of what Cam touched on, overall the team is just more competitive. And with that, if you're doing well, you kind of, you can make impact on the team, both in results and then kind of in the direction we're taking. And then I also think Kerber talks a lot about leadership. And I think we do a program at Cornell called Big Red Leadership Institute for 4 years, starting as a freshman all the way through senior year. And I think programs like that have enabled freshmen and younger guys to realize that you can take action and have a role as a freshman or sophomore, and you don't just have to wait till you're in the back half of your career to really lead. And then another huge factor that I think is the community that the team has. And I guess community and culture you could kind of use interchangeably here. Like Cornell lightweight rowing doesn't stop at 7 p.m. when practice is over. And I think this is something that was apparent to me my first week at Cornell when all the guys on the squad kind of brought me in. And just that whole year with Henley Camp and with IRA Camp that really makes the Cornell experience different. I think this is something we've only built on the last 4 years. Like nowadays, everyone lives within a block or so of each other. There seems to be guys going to classes together daily, people going to the library together nightly, and people aren't divided by class or like what boat you're in. So like, I think a good example of this is if you look at like a West Campus dinner, which is like our dining hall on campus, like you'll have guys from all different classes, all different majors, and all different ranks of the team, which is awesome to see. And then I think on top of this, you know, we do more like barbecues, community service, like the Tough Turtle thing we did in the fall, as well as like attending sporting events like hockey. And I think it's just given us an X factor that has kind of given us a competitive advantage. And it's just been a really kind of special part of the experience. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, and Cam and I just wanted to give a huge thanks. Oh, don't know what happened there. There we go. Yeah, we just wanted to give a huge thanks to obviously Kerber and Brumstead for believing in us as athletes, supporting us as captains, and just doing everything in their power to make the Cornell experience so incredible. And then we'd also like to thank all the assistant coaches and volunteer coaches who helped, like Celia, Gideon, Luke, Marty, and just everyone who was there along the way, as well as the Cornell Athletic Support Team. I know our team uses Big Red Refuel, the trainers, and is obviously relying on compliance and a lot of those other parts. Also want to thank our teammates who are on the squad now and who guided us in the early days. It's kind of fun getting on calls like this because I see people from like seniors when I was a freshman, or people who took me on classes when I was on my official visit, which is cool to see, as well as the captains who came before us. And this is both the captains who served while Cam and I were there, so the past 3 years, as well as those who came before us. All those people set great examples and made Cam and I's lives much easier and deserve a huge thank you. I think they got us to where we are today and overcame some serious challenges that Cam and I might have not had to overcome as much. And it was just really, really critical to setting the program to where it is today. When we were preparing for this, I told Kerber and Cam and all of them that we're like a president who inherited a really good economy, because a lot of the stuff that the older captains put into place have really set us up well for success. And I also like to thank the alums who consistently show up to races, cheer us on, and make what we do possible. Support spans from like the class of 19 all the way to the classes in the 50s. So we got 70 plus years of tradition. And it's, I think, a testament to how special the program is. And then finally, just wanted to thank the parents for making this all possible. I know my parents helped me a lot to get me to where I am today. And then I know all the parents on the team care about the program and really help make this all possible. So yeah, that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you, captains. Really well done, well articulated reflection of the team and just kind of where we are. Just want to hand out a couple more pieces of gratitude. Coach Brumstead, we wouldn't be where we were without Coach Bill Brumstead, class of 11. His expertise, his strengths in what he does, analytics, it's amazing. I'm seeing Walt Schlepfer in the picture there. We were about to row the second boat called the Schlepfer 2. And that boat is sitting in the boat bay with its bow, with the boat. It's down in slings and it's pointed towards the water. And I wanted that we put that boat down on the last day of practice, and hopefully it'll stay. I guess I have to call the boat maker to see if it's all right. But like that's the point at which we're going. Like, what's the next opportunity? So I definitely want to thank everybody who's here tonight. Definitely want to give honor to the class of 2020. Thank you so much. It was a great celebration of Cornell lightweights. And I'd love to open the floor for some questioning. Keith, were you going to tee up some questions?
Yeah, I'm not. Excuse me. I'm not seeing any listed right. Right now, I see one question. I don't know if this is
what a predator piece was.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't know if that was a reaction to something else in the chat or something somebody was saying.
No, that's just something that we've adopted from steeplechase training. Basically, it's from Bugenhagen at Hobart. I think we stole it from the same steeplechase coach. What does it say? It just moved. Long distance, start at steady state, gradually increase the rate and intensity throughout. It's like a 15 to 35 minute piece. So that's the predator piece. Any other questions out there? How about a comment? Go ahead, Bruce. Do you want to read Bruce's there, Keith?
Yeah, so Bruce Rogoff is wondering, how about a comment about the turnaround from not making the finals at the sprints last year to winning the IRA?
It's a hot topic. I think, Dennis, Woodside talked about Jim Love taking ownership, being out in the head in the, was it the 90 Eastern sprints, said, hey, I got scared. I didn't get scared that day of sprints. I made a small adjustment to the rigging, which put that crew in a little bit of an awkward position. When the 9 of them who came off the water and birthdays were dismissed, puppies were lost, girlfriends were broken up, grandparents moved on to places, that's the faces that I saw. Like, everything was wrong. I immediately say, hey guys, that was on me. 15-mile-an-hour headwind, lighten the rig a little bit, make it a little more comfortable. Anyway, definitely didn't help their hearts that were aching. It didn't, but it certainly said, like, wow, Kerber's taking the ownership on this, and that's strong leadership right there. Or that's just, anyway, we got back to Cornell, and again, the strength of the team is these people who contribute to our success. And we met in the back of the bay, and I said, hey guys, I've had loss in this league, or I've had loss in this sport. And I said, there's something that somebody should have told me back when I was dealing with loss in the sport, is like, leave all the emotions at the door, leave all the BS and that. It's like, we had redemption ahead of us, the IRA. And then Soren Kojic, senior class, just said to everybody, which was, I thought, a person who speaks with credibility on the team. And he just said, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And you know what? That just, it definitely modified everybody's headspace a bit. We had a couple more days of just kind of fiddling around. We knew we were fast. We put down a good time at Worcester, 15 minutes after the grand final, or 15 minutes before, I don't know. But we had proven to the league that we were fit, and you could see it in that first 500 meters of last year's of 2019 IRA. But good question, Bruce. Thank you.
A question from Fred and Lisa. Any chance of a C-150 head of the Charles 2021 entry with 2020 seniors?
Well, they would all have to be fit, and you want to talk to Brumstead about the 5K standard or 6K standards. And that also includes Nick Riley and anybody else who's trying to get in the boat. I heard about that, head of the Charles. So, yeah, no, I think Fred Schock, who runs the head of the Charles, was talking about having a tribute. I was thinking about having the sprints out on the basin, and then once you get to BU, the finish line, then you do your headpiece right afterwards. What do you guys think? It's pretty innovative, huh? What other questions?
Question for Dennis from Connor Hayes. Do you think you guys would have achieved the same success without the catalyst of the freshman class?
No way in hell. I mean, that class just had they had the right attitude. They liked one another. It was kind of a no bullshit class. At least my observation is not a lot of drama, and we had too much drama, kind of in the upper class ranks. So when they came into the boathouse, the upperclassmen had to get their act together and start leading. And the boats were, that picture that you saw, there's two seniors rowing, and then our coxswain's a senior. Everybody else is from that former freshman class or the class after that. And then, again, I don't know, I was never coached by Chris Bass. I don't know what he did, but he created a class of winners, and Cornell had not had winners for a long time. So, you can have one class come in and completely change dynamics of the boathouse. One of the other guys was talking about how the seniors could have rejected that, or the upperclassmen rejected that as competition. They didn't. They said, look, this is what it's going to take to get faster. Everybody recognized that group had something special and win.
Great. Peter Davis, class of 77, wants to know, can he get a half minute? I don't know if this
can
is
you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Bruce, let's start the stopwatch.
Can I control the mic?
You will.
Go ahead.
I have mute powers, but we're gonna...
Peter, go.
If you would please stop talking, I could get this done faster. First, I know this is not a fundraiser, so I will talk fast. But first question for Chris, do you want or need more Empower Orlocks? Okay. And the second point is, okay, just since there are so many classes here, I just want to plant the idea that we should think about buying a boat or boats across the classes, okay? We've got 50, maybe 60 classes out there that are still living. If you can get a contribution from each class, that makes it less than $1,000 a class. So instead of thinking in terms of buying a boat from a class, I'm not saying give that up, but we buy a boat across the classes and maybe name it class of 2020. Chris, I'm done. I'm muting myself.
That's pretty good, Bruce. What do we have? 39 seconds? 49 seconds?
That was perfect. Excellent.
I mean, it's only 8:18. Thank you, Peter Davis. You are the best. You are the spirit keeper of those
Bruce,
70s
Bruce,
guys.
coming from you, that is high praise.
You are the spirit of the 70s. And Bruce, you can back me up on that. He is truly.
Absolutely.
He asked courageous questions. Anyway, Bruce, Empower Orlocks, I could definitely use them. It's a good thing. I think technology, anytime you can advance it, is a big thing. To see what rowers are doing in the boat, maybe something that you're not seeing. I think leveraging it. I'm a bit of a technophobe, even though I used to be an options trader, like a day trader and stuff like that. You had to watch screens and numbers, and I always just tried to simplify things. I studied at Temple. I studied in North Philadelphia. I studied economics. Everything was about simplifying things so you could see the clear picture. Also, we just have, bandwidth issues, hours issues. Brumstead, we have a Peach system, which we use to look at diagnostics. It's still in the toolbox. I think I've used it twice in the last 2 years. But thank you for that inquiry. As far as the boats, we are we're choking on boats right now. The Schlepfer 2, which is named after Walt, class of 50, I want to say 2 or 1. That still needs to go a full year. And then our great class of 89 just bought another boat for us. It is manufactured. It is sitting in Canada. It is supposed to be delivered this fall. So that takes us to 2021. We can think of some long-term strategic plans on buying boats and things like that, but I don't think that's the limiting factor at this point. I think the limiting factor is getting Cornell back and in session and have people back on campus and, putting the pandemic behind us, if that's ever going to happen. I think that's what it is. So, Peter, thank you so much for your contributions.
The chat's heating up now in the final minutes. And that's fine. It's Friday. I don't know if anyone else has anywhere to be, but this is the highlight of my evening. So, Alex, Dan Gleasack is asking, Alex, cost, any difference between the 2017 and 2019 years?
Yeah. So 2017 was my freshman year, and 2019 obviously was my junior year. I'd say the 2017 crew had a really strong senior class, and it's like the defining feature of that boat to me, and what I took away from it, what I remember about them. I say the 2019 year obviously had a little more adversity with Eastern sprints, and I think 2019 year might have had a little more depth across the team as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say the two main differences are.
Great. Greg has a question for Coach Kerber. Graduating into this economy will be tough for seniors. Do we have any programs in place to help connect them with alumni who may be able to help them find interviews?
Greg, is that Foucault?
Yes.
Foucault, the best. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Greg, right now, this week, yesterday was mechanical engineers, and then webinar with alums, and then Thursday, Kerry Quinn, Jim Voter, heavyweight, Kerry Quinn Coxon. So, and then I think next week is another set of engineers for all, senior, junior engineers, even recent grads can get on it. I know Nate Lambert, and there's just great talent. So we're trying to do this weekly. I imagine it's a pretty heavy lifting off the beginning, but I guess once we get the framework, we can have people doing consulting or any number of things, investment banking, sales and trading, anything like that, vet school, animal science. We got a couple of those great people amongst there. But I would say, Fuoco, people are without a doubt involved in that. And I would like for you, since you're in law and you just sent your materials, travel and hospitality, Joe Kiley, there's no shortage of people wanting to contribute here. Thank you so much. We will follow up with all of you.
Hey, can I one quick piece of advice on that, Chris?
Yeah, Dennis
Dennis here. So one thing that I think that the rowers don't reach out enough to alum to ask for favors. It's very easy, it's very easy for us to help. But when you do, just tell us what you want, right? Have spent a little bit of time on a website looking at the job that you're looking for. I'm looking to be a marketing associate at Google or whatever. And there's no way that we're gonna not help. So feel free to reach out, a little bit of initiative, and you'll get the help that you want.
Great. Thank you all.
Dennis actually gave me an email. I sat in his backyard one day in the summer of 18. We just chatted a little bit, and we talked about this piece. And he actually gave me kind of like some best practices before you talk to an alum. Just like be a little buttoned up and know what the ask is. And I've sent that off to the senior class this year. Alex Coates had it. Matt Rung, I gave it to him when he was looking into tech. Just a nice little structure there. You know, it's about the process. So thanks very much for that. Any other questions out there, Keith?
Yeah, this could be a tough one for Coach Kerber. Fastest IRA crew, 2014, 2015, 2017, or 2019? Go.
No, the emphatic answer. Now, 15 had the fastest time. 19 had the biggest race, but it's the 2020 IRA that I'm all for this class of 2020. I'm voting for them.
All right. Not really a question, but a statement of clarification. Brian Kelly just wants everyone to know Dennis is being a bit modest. He was 100% effort in every endeavor. He needed similar expectations. And I think that might be it, but I think our head of our Cornell Rowing Association board would like to just have a few minutes before we close. Go ahead, Bruce.
I promise to be faster than Peter Davis. They had a very tough year this year. The world had a very tough year. College athletics had a very tough year. Obviously, the Cornell rowing program had a heartbreaking year. We have done a really good job of raising money this year. We're a little behind on number of individual unique donors. We have a month to go before the end of the fiscal year. If people could stand up and be counted, recognize that the class of 2020 could use a pat on the back, make a donation, in my case, of $19.79 in somebody that graduated last year, 2019. If 20 bucks is a lot of money to you because you don't have a job, you have student debt, you're going to school next year, hit up one of your classmates that has a job on Wall Street for the 20 bucks. If you haven't made a contribution in this fiscal year, please think about it.
Thanks, Bruce. On that note, I'll congratulate everyone and thank everyone for your generous support. In the last fiscal year, rowing program set a record of all programs at Cornell with most unique donors in one fiscal year. So we can really do appreciate that continued participation, as Bruce highlighted. Well, I think that's about it. Coach Kerber, take us home.
Thank you very much. And thanks for everybody for coming out tonight. Again, my week started on Sunday, walking that little dog that you guys saw on the 13th of March. Somehow something hit me and the tears started, and I was just thinking about you guys. I've been thinking about all of you guys through these interactions with Dennis, Colin, and Taylor. You know, plenty of humorous phone calls with Brumstead, a few texts with some other people. It's been great. And you know what? I think the most important thing that a leader told me is take stock and reflect on what you've done and just start writing the next chapter. So I'm going to leave it with that, guys. Just write your next chapter. and that's for everybody. And for, I think at some point we're at 1:15 on tonight. Thanks for everybody again for coming out. Brumstead, I'm going to hand it over to you before you hand it over to the captains, who will break it down. We're going to give the captains the last word tonight. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to unmute and just listen to Brumstead's 45-second.
All right, I'm on the spot, I guess. Wasn't expecting this, but such is life. I will just reiterate, I think the messages that are coming from the captains, from Chris, Keith, Bruce, Peter, everyone else that has spoken, just the community of Cornell rowing, Cornell lightweight rowing it's just an exceptional group to be a part of. Great to have this community also in a time like this, to be able to reach out to people from different phases of your life, current phase, past phase, and all that. And just thanks to the class of 2020, the parents of all the rowers that have gone through our program, the alumni, and all that. And thanks for everyone that tuned in, and BMA.
Hey, captains. The people are yours. Break it down.
All right, Cam, you in?
Yeah, we should get Joe and Drew Hickey to join us. Are they on?
I know Joe is. Joe, where are you?
I'm here.
Lauren, you in on this too? Oh, there's Hickey.
I think everyone should unmute for it.
Yeah, everyone should definitely unmute.
Unmute everybody.
You're doing a slow clap?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yep. That was better than when we all tried to sing the alma mater, though. Gotta give it that.
As soon as we get up to about 9G someday, that'll work really well.
Right on 3.
Love it. Great evening. Thanks Keith.
All right, everyone. Thank you. If you want to stay
Dennis.
muted and just give shout outs to people you know, go ahead. We'll keep the meeting open for another few minutes. Thanks again.
Great group tonight.
Shout out to Chris Kerber, of course, from Greg. How you doing?
Yeah, we got the same haircut, man.
Can't go wrong with a classic. Hey,
Yeah.
and one thing I wanted to tell you, I remember you said something a while ago about it's important to, for smart people to have kids, right?
Nice. What do we got?
So we're in a week, no, I'm sorry, in a month and a week, we're going to have a baby girl.
You're done practicing. I'm so happy for you, Greg.
Thank you. So I don't know about the smart people, but at least my wife's smart. So we got half.
Okay. You married.
Luco, you're going from calling your wife to baby girl. Now you got a new baby girl.
I don't know what I'm going to do. That's, it's a real
new baby girls.
Yeah.
I hope you don't quit practicing.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Greg. Great seeing you. Thank you. Sean Healy's on the phone. Love seeing Shawnee.
Good to be back in red. Good to be back in red again.
I'll second that.
How you doing, Taylor?
Doing well. No complaints. So.
Danny O'Neill, where are you driving to?
I'm driving home from the office.
Oh, you were working today. That's good.
Yes.
Great seeing you, Don Rose, tonight. Listening to the stories. Eric Johnson's putting together his bike out west. That's good.
Looks like he already lives in the mountains. Look at that beard. Jesus.
I've given up.
Great evening, everybody.
Hold on.
Coach Rung, are you still there?
I am. What's up, Dano?
Oh, I was talking to Coach Matt Rung, but I'm also happy to see you too, Coach Kerber.
Rung has left the building. You may have to call him personally.
I haven't that guy in forever. So
Do you have his number? Do you want me to send it to you?
I think I have his number. I'll text it to you. I'll text you if I don't have it.
He has a burner phone these days, so you know he's really watching that stuff.
A bunch of us are going to get together in Colorado in a couple weeks, I think. So
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think there's going to be like
Summertime there. Good stuff. Take them into the mountains. Take them above whatever altitude training. Just put them on the trail.
We're going to go to Frisco and Breckenridge. I think that's where we're going to set up shop. And maybe we'll do some 14ers.
Nice. Don't do any Everesting. What Hank Ellis did for the Matthews Cup. No more.
Hank did that?
That was so stupid.
Hank Everested in the stadium.
Oh my God. Jesus.
And then another kid did it in Pittsburgh, like on a three floor building. Anyway, it was. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Keith, can I just call you on the cell just for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Take it easy, everyone.
What's that, Dano?
Take it easy. Have a good weekend. I'll probably be in Ithaca this summer at some point. If you're going to be around, I'll shoot you a text.
Please do. I think a number of students are coming back, recent grads. You know, Ithaca's a great place to be in the summer.
I agree. All right, I'll be in touch. Weekend, Coach.
Bye-bye. Good night, everybody. I'm going to leave the meeting.